This is my first time attending face to face. So, I only attended virtually before, and it's actually really cool, like to see all these smart people in a room. My brain is already full, and I'm only halfway through the day. But just seeing the level of different expertise, like some people are newbies, some people have more knowledge than I could ever imagine. But just seeing all of that, hearing about all the great new stuff that's coming out, I literally filled like 3 pages of my notebook already, and I've only attended like 3 workshops.
That's great. Yeah, what would you say is one of the main benefits of coming to something like this?
I think that there's, when I work with Dan one-on-one, like as my rep, like he gives me all this information, but just seeing it all here and seeing all the people that I've talked to, like Chris and you and Samantha and Jackie, and I mean, everybody, like they're all here and I'm meeting them face to face. And it's just so nice to be able to bounce ideas off. And literally I got one of the anatomists and I didn't even know who she was. And I'm starting to go, we need this. And she's like, oh, you're talking to the right person. So just all of those connections that you can make. And we're all like-minded people when we're here, because it's Anatomage and we're all here for Anatomage. So that's what I think makes it even better, is that we can all just talk and immerse ourselves in the products.
And you have a keynote coming up, correct? Or have you already?
I was a keynote last year. I have 4 workshops.
4 workshops.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of which is in 15 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's okay.
So how would you, or what would you say to somebody who's thinking about becoming a workshop leader? Like, how did you get into it?
I love to teach. And I think that that's something that I've always enjoyed doing. So you really have to think outside the box and think differently, which I think I do. And just always be open to ideas, and always, like, to me as a teacher, teaching is only part of it, because every time I teach, I learn something. So I'm a lifelong learner. I'm also a lifelong teacher, but it's just, you can always gain something from your audience. So even the way I'm running my workshop today, I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have a strict schedule. I have an outline because it's going to be guided by my participants. So they're going to be teaching me as I'm teaching them. So that's kind of the way I look at it, is you always want to learn and always gain more. So the best way for me to do that is to teach, because you have all these people in front of you that have questions, and you can't answer all their questions because they just lead to more questions. But it's fine for me. Like, I love that about teaching. And I think that that's something, if someone wants to be a workshop presenter, have ideas, come with questions, and then, just have conversation. And the workshop idea is really cool too, because it's not just a lecture, it's interactive, it's engaging. And that's what we're trying to do with our students too.
And that's a great segue. How have you been teaching your students with the table, and how have they been enjoying that so far?
They absolutely love the table. I think this is my 4th year using it now, and I went from one table in a closet to being immersed in the remote virtual world to actually now having my own space, and by my own, I mean university space, with 3 beautiful tables in it, and on, monitors, they're connected, and I have the tablet that I'm allowed to use, and the ebook, and like all these different things that I can use for the table. And I found that the first time I taught it, it was very hands-off for me. Like, the students would I'd say, okay, well, go identify the muscles. And I'd say, how did you do? And they're like, okay. And it was 10 minutes. Now they're creating their own activities. They're creating their own study guides. They're making videos. They're in the cloud version. They're so immersed in it that they actually have stories for the people, and they're respecting that they're human beings. And it's just, I've grown, they've grown. But they have asked me, are we going to use the tables next semester? Are we going to use them in the pediatric course? And I said, oh, don't worry, I use them in my pediatric course. And they're like, can we ask one of our other teachers if he'll use it in his class? And I'm like, sure. So they're really seeing the benefit of all that it has to offer too, because the table has more features than anything else does. Like, there's little bits and pieces. The tablet has a little bit, the ebook has a little bit, but the table has everything. And they're even seeing the content in there that can be used in other classes, which I think is really cool. Yeah.
Speaking of features, what is one of your favorite features on the table?
Oh my God, what is one of my favorite features? Well, I like, from a teaching perspective, the customization. So that's one of the things that with the ebook, and even with the cloud and with the new tablet, I go back to my table, because my table has the ability for me to create what I like to use. So I can make my own presets, I can color code, I can identify, I can make videos. And then I use all of that content in my lectures, in my labs, in experiences that the students are doing. This year I added in functional videos, where they had to actually make their own Flipgrid videos that, talking about things they learned on the table. So I like the ability for me to be able to customize it. There's so much content there, but they're real human beings too, with real conditions and real stories. They're not just two-dimensional images. And I'll do that. In my lectures, I'll have a picture that I find on the internet with our textbook picture, and then right next to it is the Anatomage picture that I've color-coded to say, here it is here, here's the, an illustration of it, and then here's the table. Oh, let me click play, and I'm going to rotate it through and show you on video now. And then you're going to go into the lab space, and you're going to look at it in real life. So it all goes seamlessly together, and it's really a heavy part of my class, teaching just the customizations of it. Yeah.
I'm curious, I guess imagine you're from one of your students' perspective. What do you think is the most valuable thing for them, or what are they really intrigued about the table when they first see it?
They go, oh, wow. Like when they first see it, because we pull the covers off and we have the grand reveal. And they are not quite sure about their anatomy and how this table is going to actually be gross anatomy, because they're going, where are the cadavers? Where are the real bodies? So I'll put the body on the table and I'll color it pink. I'm going to do it in my workshop, all the same color. I'm like, okay, if it was a real cadaver, that's what you'd have in front of you. But this is what it really looks like. And I pop it back over to Carl or Victor in all their colored glory. And then I show them like what it really is and what it's all about. And at first they're terrified. But I tell them, you're not going to break it. You can undo, you can recut, you can remove things. If you make a mistake, you just erase it and try again. So it takes them a couple weeks, but they just took their final exam and they were experts. I mean, they're like flipping things and rotating it around and zooming them in. I mean, I walked over and there was a heart that was literally this big on the table because she was trying to see the valves. I'm like, okay, do what you need to do. You can't do that on a real human. So I show them that. I'll pull up a pro section of a brain that's this big. And I'll put Victor's brain this big, but I'll shrink it down and go, okay, now go find what you need to find here. And they're like, no, I want it big. So they like the ability to actually, they live in a technological world. So having that technology that they can learn from is really cool.
I've been hearing that a lot of the students are it's very intuitive to them. Like Elena was actually telling us that kids have been discovering features and things to do with the table that the instructors didn't teach them. And it's really cool.
Oh yeah, they're doing something because the double tap feature is missing on my table version 8 that I have. They're figuring out how to cut and dissect. I'm like, how the heck did they just do? I mean, they're creating images and views that I didn't think I could do. But again, that's the thing. Even though I'm the teacher, I'm still a learner and they're still teaching me. So it's so mutual. They're like, hey, look what I did. Come over here. Isn't this look cool? Like they want to share things with me and show me things they've created. And I'm like, you know what? They love to hear when I say, I'm going to steal that. Save that as a preset so I can have that for later. And they feel all proud of themselves because it's something that they created that I'm like, that's so good. I want to use it in my lecture next year. So, and that gives them a sense of pride.